Hello, listeners, and welcome to another episode of Subscription Scaled. I'm your host, Nick Frederick. With me today is Chris Porter, who is the co-founder and president of GOHUNT. Chris, welcome to the show.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, excited to learn a little bit more today, but let's start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you guys came to start GOHUNT.
Yeah, so my background prior to start out co-founding GoHunt was in the online gaming industry. So the first 10 years of my career was all about online gaming. So a little bit of tech background, but mostly on the marketing side. And I started working at a company and got to know my co-founder, his name's Lorenzo Sartini, who's a great human being, and he's super passionate about outdoors and hunting. I was from Southern California, had never hunted before ever. But he had a big idea around online and in this space, and we started talking, and one thing led to another, and we ended up starting the business, and we were conceptualizing it in 2013, kind of coming up with a business plan in 2013, and then launched it in 2014.
Okay, awesome. Well, talk about those early days, that kind of nucleus of an idea that led you guys to say that, okay, this hunting industry, there's a market for an online subscription. Like, what was that thought process like, and how has that evolved over time?
Yeah, so we didn't really know what was going to be behind the paywall, but very early on, we wanted to be a subscription business. This is when 2013's Netflix, Amazon Prime are definitely starting to blow up and getting huge traction. And so the idea of a subscription business was still early, but a great idea. Sponsorship, creating like a .com destination and just living off of like sponsorship revenue was really not a sustainable business model. So we loved ARR early on. We wanted to be annual and not monthly, which I can talk about. But we didn't really know what was going to be behind the paywall. So we really started just focusing on like what problems needed to be solved. And there were quite a few. We kind of have the luxury, I think it's a luxury, of an industry that's 5 to 10 years behind a lot of other industries. So you can, we always look for inspiration outside of our industry and then try to apply it in our industry. So, there was really no .com destination. There was no user generated content. There was no community. There's no digital destination in hunting at the time. And so that's where we really focused.
Okay. Did you guys monetize from day one? Like, were you charging customers, or did you start as kind of free and then decide, all right, now we're going to start offering some premium content?
Yeah. So we launched with just a free community, basically content site. And so a lot of people were like, what are you guys doing? It just looks like a blog site. And we're like, well, there is no ESPN.com. There were still magazines in our world that were and this isn't that long ago, right? 10 years ago. And so we were like, we can build a .com destination, drive traffic, build a community, build a brand, and then launch the paid product later on, because that required quite a bit of tech. So we launched the free part of the business maybe 9 months before the paywall. We launched the membership business around January 1 of 2015.
Okay. So what went into that first paid product? Like, how did you guys decide these are the things that are going to take a consumer over that wall and want to, give us their credit card?
Yeah. So in our world, for those of you who don't understand hunting, and I didn't at the time, it is actually quite complicated. It's highly regulated. Every state's got different rules and regs. So if you think about it, it's really what like Zillow did or Expedia did to the travel industry, what Zillow did to the real estate market. You go and have there was a need for a destination where you could go and look at all of your options and put in criteria that's important to you and get it visualize the options, the search criteria on a map. So that was the basis of the idea. So our original product that's really morphed is really a very Zillow-like product, where you can go in and put, I want to look at archery hunting for elk in Colorado, these dates. And it's showing you what matches your criteria. There's a lot of publicly available data, just like MLS. There was a lot of public data in the real estate market, but someone had to curate it and put it in a consumable spot for consumers. So that's really what we did is we created a tools. You had to pick up the tools and use them. So it's very much like a DIY type product, but we make your life easier. We put it in one place, and we let you filter and sort and add favorites and put in your notes and have like a dashboard. It's evolved quite a bit, of course, over the years, but that was really the basis of it is just putting all the data and the information in one place.
Yeah. Well, you talk about your industry being kind of behind some others. How into technology is your target audience, right? And did you have to kind of bring them up and kind of train them on, hey, we can make these tools available. Here's how you use it. Did that make even ensuring that things were user friendly that much more important? Or did you find that, hey, these guys are actually tech savvy and we just need to kind of build it and they'll come and want to use it?
Yeah, they're savvier than you would think, but like for example, 2013, 2014, Instagram was really blowing up. Okay. Our audience hunting was still like Facebook still dominated. And then in 2015, 16, Instagram really blew up in the hunting world. So it's just kind of a couple years behind. There's like, they had computers, they had smartphones, of course. They're just a couple years behind what we've seen. They're not as many early adopters, but I mean, hunting, there's 15, 16 million hunters in just the United States. So it is a large group. So there's a lot of different demographics within that.
What and how has that changed for you guys? I mean, 9 years, that's quite a tenure for a subscription business at this point. A lot are just a few years old, maybe 3, 4, 5, but 9 years is quite a long time. And to your point, some of these other platforms that we kind of think are ubiquitous today were just getting going back then, or actually didn't even exist. So you guys were kind of competing with some of the ground swell players. Like, how did you compete and kind of build your technology with all of that going on? Did you even think that this was going to work back then?
Yeah, we had to prove it out for sure. And the original product was changing behavior. People weren't used to going somewhere to get that information. Yeah. So they had to really, not trying to compare us to like Apple, but if you think of like Jobs, when you drop the iPhone, people were like, well, what do apps get me? Mm-hmm. Now it's like, how do you live without a mobile application? Right. So created that entire ecosystem. So we dealing with changing behavior. So what we noticed is year 3 and 4 was way easier than years 1 and 2, of course, like getting that product going and building momentum. Like we had to work from a marketing standpoint way harder in year 1 and 2 than we did year 3 and 4. Like it started to organically grow and we got user adoption. Once the word started building, it became much easier. And then scaling it, like then you reach that next growth and then you got to try to scale it. And that's your next hurdle. But we just recently launched an e-learning business called outdoorclass.com, which is, very similar to like a masterclass, but for the outdoors, because there's such a barrier to entry of the information you need to start hunting. But it's reminding us of when we launched the GOHUNT product is year 2 is a lot easier than year 1. When you launch a product, you think it's going to blow up overnight, like a light switch. That's just not the way it happens.
Well, let's go there. You talked about a few phases of growth. What was marketing like for you guys in the early days when you first launched it and then were, kind of going up? You talked about the first couple of years, trying to just build momentum, right? And then was it really word of mouth that got you guys into the next phase, or did you start doing some digital marketing? What kind of moved you guys into those different phases?
Early years was very much about communicating why someone should care about the product. What does it do for them? So it's like getting through that message across that they needed the product. So that was a lot of hard work. Then it was, leveraging new digital channels and optimizing and then scaling. So there's been a lot of things along the way. We've been a digital first company from the start. So digital advertising has always been a part of our core, Facebook, Instagram ads, YouTube ads. Like we're always experimenting in all those arenas. Of course, like a lot of people are dealing with, cost per acquisition is getting tougher and tougher. It's getting really, really expensive. Fast forward to like now, the team is 75 or so full-time people and some contractors. So we have a performance team, we have a business intelligence team and things like that. So we're studying very much that CAC to lifetime value ratio. And we're always toying with that. And I can't stress the importance of that. It's so important. You have to know your lifetime value, you have to know your retention. And you got to be in a healthy spot. And we're definitely focusing on much more profitable growth than just growth at all costs, of course, especially with the cost of capital and all the changes in the market.
Yep.
That's the love-hate people have with subscription business, especially right now, is they love the annuity over time. about them. The customers on the front end are very expensive, especially right now, to acquire.
Right. Well, yes, I think the outside perception, to your point, is that it kind of seems like an annuity, right? You do the hard work up front, you get the customer, and then they just stay. Which, for those of us that are in this, know that couldn't be further from the truth. We kind of make it look easy, but it's really not, right? So, would you guys say that you are as much or more focused now on retention, keeping the customers that you got, because that's far less cost than maybe going out and getting new ones, or do you try to keep a healthy balance there?
Good question. We have had the luxury of having, knock on wood, really solid retention from the start, and
Okay.
that's held steady. So we're fortunate there. So we're much more focused on acquisition than retention until we start to see retention slipping. It's in a really healthy spot. We still have a lot of growth ahead of us. So we are definitely much more focused on acquisition. Now, I think the retention being in a good spot is not by accident. We are very customer obsessed, and so focused on solving problems for the customer. And then, similar to like an Amazon Prime, we have added substantial value to the membership over the years, not changed the price. So all that makes it stickier, and so that's what that retention. And of course, retention is so important to lifetime value, and it allows you to know how much you can pay to acquire a customer. Once you get some good data around retention, it's such a critical metric. We've launched a couple different products, and 5 points of retention swing on an annual basis is just massive on lifetime value.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it kind of stands to reason, right? Hunters tend to be lifetime hunters, right? They're not the kind of people that pick up a sport and, put it down a couple months later and get bored with it. These tend to be people who are very engaged in it, right? So it makes sense that that sort of retention, your natural retention would be higher for those reasons. So what is causing it though? What you are seeing, and how do you address it? So are you guys seeing, kind of more on the involuntary side? So like payment declines and, you can't keep a subscription going. Are you seeing it more on the voluntary side where people are just saying, I can't pay for this anymore. I don't want it, or I don't see the value? Like, where do those things rank? What's causing the churn that you are seeing?
Knock on wood, the churn we're seeing on web has been, for over 9 years. You're talking within 1% or 2% fluctuation, like very little change. So it's in a really good spot. We look at it closely. Now, we did launch a mobile application, and now we have in-app purchasing. That is a different ball game, and we are seeing a little bit less retention on the mobile side. And I think that's mostly due to Apple and Google. They do a great job at protecting the consumer and all that great stuff around subscriptions, and they make it very easy to opt out and the communication there. So that definitely affects retention. And so what we can spend responsibly to acquire customers on mobile is definitely less than web, of course, especially when you're dealing with the app platform fees. Yeah. I do have one suggestion. We just launched a new product. A lot of people don't realize this. Apple in particular, I don't know about Google, but Apple, for the first, they have on subscriptions, they charge 30% year one and 50% on renewals. But they launched a small business program. I don't know how long ago, but I know it's active right now, that if it's less than $1 million in ARR, then it's 15%. They don't ever do 30%, but you have to apply for the program. But that was one thing we opted into for our new product, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, I hadn't heard about that, but that's kind of a game changer, right? Because 30%, a lot of startups just avoid the app stores for those reasons, right? They might have an app that they expose through the app store, but that's really to service the product. That's not for enrollment, right? Because you just don't want to take that payment method through there. So though you signed up for that now, what kind of led you guys to say that, all right, we'll bite the bullet and kind of offer the app, purchase it through the app stores and take that fee? Was it just, hey, there's a segment of customers that we wouldn't otherwise reach or wouldn't have a way to enroll were it not for the app store? Like, was that the compelling reason?
Yeah. So the second product we launched was a really a mapping focused product. Our original product's $150 a year. So it's a premium product. It comes with a ton of, end to end solutions. This other product called Explorer that we launched is $50 per year. It's really a mapping focused product that you use in and out of the field, and you put in your content, and it syncs up with the cloud, and it has a lot of benefits. But so hunters need maps. Like, you can't hunt without maps.
Yeah.
So that product really is a mobile first product. So that always needed in-app purchasing. But what we learned is we added, so Insider outside of maps is really mostly benefits on web. Right. This is the product that we launched 9 years ago. And we added the ability to purchase that product through the mobile app, even though outside of maps, there's really not a lot of value in the app for that product.
Okay.
And we noticed a lot of people purchasing on the mobile app. And so when we dug in and we looked at customer data, there are just certain people that just prefer purchasing on mobile. They prefer mobile apps. And so what we're realizing is just it's opening up a whole different acquisition channel. Right. And we were pleasantly surprised with what we saw on the data. We think it's just opening up, just pie's growing. It's not taking from this and dividing it where you're just paying more fees. We absolutely think it's incremental.
Yeah. I'm curious. Have you talked to those customers? Because that's a pretty interesting insight right there. Right. Because, a lot of subscription businesses are growing on web, and they're hitting this wall, and they're looking over here at these app stores and going, 30%, this just isn't worth it. Right. My costs are more than that. So I don't know how I'm going to make any money. What have you heard from those customers that leads you to believe that, they would have only found us there? No other way.
Well, you see, it's on CNBC every day, the decline in PC sales, right? I think there's this whole, maybe it's the younger generations. There's people that just don't have computers. Like your phone, your smartphone is a computer, especially to a younger person. I think there's just more people that is they have their wallet on there. You don't even have to carry your wallet anymore, right? You get gas at the gas station with your iPhone. So that whole ecosystem is just changing. I think there's so many more people comfortable with Face ID, double click, and you just purchase. And I think it's just a different consumer. I hear we thought the same thing, right? You give away the 30%. I think the new Apple program for small businesses, less than $1 million in ARR, is definitely that's 15% instead of 30%. So that reduces that barrier to entry. I would encourage anybody and everybody to look at it hard. I think there's more incremental than people realize. I think it's less cannibalization and more incremental than people realize.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. That's kind of the fear too, right? Is that if I give both options, they're going to go over here, and I'm going to be paying a much higher fee than I would have, just for credit card processing costs on the web. But you guys seem to think otherwise. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I've been studying Spotify lately, reading their books, and they have a really good podcast. But they talk about what they learned in their early years is convenience is king, right? And that makes sense. But their early years, they were having to compete with free music, right? And they were trying to charge for it, but they realized if they packaged it in a convenient way, they would win, and they did. So I think it's might be convenience. Just people love the ease of it on a mobile app.
Or maybe said a different way, friction, right? Like on the in-app stores, it's click a button. Yes, I want to subscribe to this. Click OK. Don't have to put in my credit card. Don't have to put in my personal information. It is already there. Versus web, which is register, sign up, put in a password, get out my credit card. Even if I use PayPal, I'm being redirected. All of that friction that kind of goes into it. Do you think that's a big factor?
Huge. I talk with our product team, like, I don't even like logging into our website behind the paywall on mobile, even though it's, very mobile friendly, because of the login, right? Where the mobile app, it's just Face ID unlocked. It's so easy. Yeah. So frictionless is a big deal for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Well, what in terms of, besides what we just talked about, are other channels you guys are looking at in order to, build the brand, get the name out there, find new hunters that might be interested in? Are you guys looking at, are there influencers in your space that, can spread the word, or what are you guys looking at?
Yeah, influencers is something. I actually listened to the episode you did with the founder of Butcher Box, and he was talking about there were some golden years from 2016 to 2019 with influencer marketing. I couldn't agree more. And it's changing, and we're really studying right now, trying to figure out how to adapt. The game's changed a lot, and we are having that was a kind of not the backbone of our marketing, but it was a big channel and a big priority for us for a long time, and it still is. The effectiveness, the efficiency of it has declined quite a bit for us over the last year or two. So we are adding new channels, trying new things. We're trying to break through that next wall of growth and trying to figure out where it is. But yeah, the influencer game, we're trying to figure out where it's going.
Yeah. When you say trying to figure it out, what do you see as like the obstacles? Is it a cost basis? Like, because I've heard others say that what these guys, especially the ones with larger followings, what they're wanting to now charge and the way that they're wanting to engage, meaning not necessarily commissions on sales or anything like that. They want their fees up front. Is that what you're dealing with and trying to figure out how to make those economics work? Yeah,
that's definitely part of it. I would say 50% of it's that. And, then you get into the deliverable game. Like, okay, you promised this, and it's never fun to get in the deliverable game. That's why the rev share game, where it's a win-win, is nice. But you're right, they're changing the economics on that a little bit. So that's half the battle. I think the other half of the battle is just the YouTube game, the Instagram game. The systems are different, right? Like Instagram really turned from photo to like reels fast, trying to compete with TikTok. So you had to shift on that fast. So like their reach is down, their audience growth is down. When you look at the metrics of some of these really big influencers in any industry, a lot of theirs, if they've been around enough, they are usually plateauing from audience growth. Right. So you ride that wave of the growth. And then when it starts to plateau, you're seeing the ROI you're getting from that influencer plateau or mostly decline. And so, you always got to find the next new influencer, but just the YouTube game, there's so many more people, doing influencer marketing than there was 5 years ago. So it's just, there's a lot of noise out there. So it's just, it's harder to kind of break through than it used to be. It used to be a lot easier.
Right. And with digital advertising, the traditional Google AdWords and things like that the cost per click just going up and up and up. I think the influencer side was kind of, for at least a little while there, looked at as, oh, this is the cheap alternative to that, right? Where we can still get our name out there and get a lot of new traffic to the site. And now that is catching up, right? So now it's going to be, what's the next thing? Because that's not the cost-effective channel anymore. Is there anything outside of that you guys are looking at? Or at least keeping an eye on?
Connected TV. We're having Mountain. Mountain is a connected TV partner that is doing some exciting things. They have
the Ryan Reynolds company.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's something we tried last year. We're seeing some success on that.
Okay.
Facebook and Instagram, of course, you got to be there. We're really trying to optimize YouTube. I mean, our audience is on YouTube. We're having a lot of strategy meetings trying to figure out what's next. The game is changing fast.
Right. For sure.
Yeah. I honestly, I don't have all the answers. If you figure it out, I would love to know, because we are.
No one has all the answers for sure. It's just always good to get perspective on at least what you're looking at, and keeping an eye on that it could be kind of the next thing. And whatever that answer is today, by the time we publish this episode, Chris, it'll probably have changed. So
100%. Co-op. I mean, there's even some throwback. We're experimenting with some like co-op marketing, some direct mail, even in certain spots.
Yeah.
It's really foreign for a digital first company, but
well, interesting that you say that, because my initial foray into subscription, the first merchant I worked for was a big direct mail marketing company. Over 100 million pieces a year we would send out. And it's come full circle on that one. That was kind of the first direct marketing channels. And then, all of this digital stuff. And now we're kind of coming back around to that one's kind of one of the more cost-effective channels. So yeah, I definitely think that's one worth looking at. Comes full circle, doesn't it? It sure does. It sure does. And then, it the more we can spread this out, it'll kind of bring costs down for everybody, right? In a more, and hopefully anyway, who really knows, but we can at least hope for that.
It'll balance itself out. And with the cost of capital right now, people aren't throwing around money like they used to. Like everyone has to kind of adjust, even in the advertising game. Like rates have to come down. Everything's got to settle back down. It's just too expensive right now, right? And Apple and the cookie policy changes and all that, but hey, that protects consumers, fine. Rates have to come down though, because the ROI has just gotten smashed for companies. And so the circle's a little bit broken right now. It'll correct itself. It'll smooth it out. It's just a little bump we're hitting right now.
Right. Speaking of growth there and the cost of capital, how have you guys managed that throughout your cycle? I mean, did you get a seed round? Have you raised throughout, or have you been bootstrapped, or kind of a combo?
Bootstrapped really throughout. We did have a luxury of having some family office investment early on. Okay. Have not done any rounds, have gone through some processes, have looked at it, ultimately decided against it. But definitely looked at it for sure. Looked at it hard, looked at VC 1 year in kind of the first couple of years, and then looked even at some PE stuff more recently, and decided against it. But I was always looking and open to discussions. It's of course a balancing act. There's no perfect answer. I think we could have grown. Hindsight's 2020. We could have grown faster earlier if we knew what we knew. So I don't know if we should have. I don't know. It would be a different path for sure.
Yeah, well, let's dig into that just a little bit, because I think every business owner would say, right, we'll bootstrap if we can, right, but we'll raise if we need to, or if it's justified, right? If raising that capital will ultimately lead to greater growth than it would have without it. What you said, you looked at it. What were the factors that caused you to say no? Was it giving up control? Was it, hey, we don't know how quickly we can get this back, right? This investment, what went into those decisions?
Well, when we looked at it in year, I don't know, I think it was maybe year 3-ish, we would have got smashed on valuation. And so it was just early. And so we didn't have to. We had proven market fit. That's, of course, if you can, it's always great to prove out market fit. The further you can go without having, it's a perfect balancing act. If you wait too long, you're really holding back potentially major growth. If you do it too early, though, you're giving up the world before you prove much out. So it's definitely a balancing act for us. We were further than we had proven market fit, right? We had proven that people will purchase this product, and so we felt, hey, we can stay on this path a little bit more. It's still a little too early, so we kind of didn't look at it in year 3. We didn't have to. We had gotten revenue to a point. We had gotten to a team of 10 or 12. We were doing okay. We were kind of a lifestyle business at that point. We weren't scaling, but we were controlling our own destiny. And we had to learn some more lessons. And then more recently, when we looked at it, this is really within the last year and a half, the market's upside down. So it's hey, we didn't come this far to do a bad deal. Yeah. So it didn't make sense. It was a great experience though. A lot of people talk about it being a distraction when you go to market. It is a distraction for sure, but you do learn a lot and you get some really quality feedback. It was a really great experience. Yeah, good. Well, I'm curious, 2020, COVID happens. Most of the subscription businesses that I talk to that operate, in an e-commerce online way did the hockey stick, right? Things went through the roof. And I would think that hunting goes along with, hey, kind of thing where I can stay away from people. I get to be outdoors. It's a good hobby to pick up when I can't do much of anything else. What happened for you guys? Oh man. When it first hit, you don't know what's what, right? So we turned off all digital advertising to just protect cash. We went in protection mode for 3 or 4 weeks. And then we're like, oh wait, this could be good potentially. So it went from we were worried about major declines and what was going to be what to holy cow, this is really good for new hunter growth. So not only did we have the e-com, because we have an e-commerce division, outdoor, e-commerce, subscription. I mean, like we were checking a lot of the boxes of like the people that blew up. It was like a rocket ship, and it was honestly like a roller coaster ride. It was great. I'm enjoying right now a lot better though, like a little bit more of a nice train at a good
predictable.
pace.
Yeah,
it was because we're scrambling for inventory. It was stressful. We didn't know what was what. Our projections were wildly off. They were way too low or way too high through that year and a half zone. It was a lot. It was a good learning. We did a lot of right things and we did a lot of wrong things.
Yeah. Yeah. That seems to be the consistent message, right? Hard to predict. Appreciate all of a sudden the interest in, these products and these services, but at the same time, hard to predict, hard to get inventory. Better to ultimately end up where we are now, which is more predictable growth. Sounds like it's the same story for you guys.
Oh gosh, 100%. It was a roller coaster ride, is the only way I can say it.
Yep. Well, last question for you, Chris. What does the next year or two look like for you guys? Are you managing organic growth across the products that you have now, looking to start some new ones? Can you give us a little insight into what that looks like?
Yep. So for the first 8 years of the business, we were a one membership business. Last year, we launched 3 additional memberships. So now we went from 1 to 4 in a 12-month span. So, part of that was a mobile app. We now have in-app purchasing. So we have a lot going on. So now it's like we launched those last year, that, getting them off the ground. Now it's about optimizing them, learning. We get data under our belt. So for the next multiple years, it's really about optimizing the hard work and the launch of the team. A lot went into launching those products. Some are complementary to what we have going on right now. Like on all, we pulled out maps from the big membership and we sold that a la carte, and then all the way to complementary to completely separate, outdoor class. Like I said, that e-learning business, which is completely separate from an acquisition we made. That's a whole new sector. That's going to include fishing, and that's going to be a little bit broader with a bigger TAM. So that's exciting. So we got our hands full for sure. It's really about executing, operational discipline and being laser focused. We have plenty to market. And like I said, we're new to the mobile acquisition game. And so there's a lot going on there. We've learned a lot in the last year, but there's a lot more we will learn. There's a lot of organic growth to be had, like I said, having another acquisition channel. So we got our hands full for the next couple of years.
Awesome. Sounds very exciting.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, Chris, thanks again so much for the time today. Really appreciate all of the insights and hearing your story. I mean, like I said before, a lot of the subscription businesses that I talk to here are 4 or 5 years old. One that's been further down the tracks like yourselves. I think you had some good stories and we appreciate you sharing them. If any of the listeners have questions about what we talked about today or want to learn more about GoHunt or your products, where are the best places to go?
Yeah, absolutely. GoHunt.com. They can hit us up on Instagram. We're really big on building a community. If entrepreneurs are out there listening and they have questions and they're launching a business, I love helping people. They can email me directly. It's just chris@gohunt.com. I'll do my best to get back to them, but I'm happy to share any of the lessons we learned. I wish, I had some mentors along the way. So I'm all about helping and sharing and giving insights.
Awesome. Well, appreciate that. And thanks again for the time today, Chris, and best of luck.
Appreciate it, Nick. Have a good one. Thanks.
Thanks.